Folks, I want to welcome you to a special edition. We are live from the OnStar studios here at the Renaissance Center in Detroit. And with us, it's Rich Martinek, and that's pronounced correctly?
Yeah, that was very close.
Rich Martinek. I want to welcome you to OnStar Studios, your studio,
yep.
and to especially Bobby Likis, Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house today.
Thank you. Thank you, Bobby.
Let's talk about OnStar, and let's talk about some core operations of OnStar, and then let's move into, let's just get right to the Google. It's just my favorite question.
Sure.
And we've heard a lot about Google, and in the next coming weeks, 6 or 8 weeks, I'd imagine that's going to be huge. Explain how that works and when did it start?
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, I'll take one step back before I go into Google.
That would be great.
I'll talk about a little bit our turn-by-turn navigation system, because we've been out with that for about 3 years now. In GM vehicles. It's pretty much standard across the board. Most of our vehicles have it for 2011. And in fact, it comes bundled in for 2011 with our core package when you buy a new GM product for 6 months. So it's what we start everybody off with, okay? And what's important about that is it's the system that we feel, from an OnStar standpoint, is the safe alternative to providing directions in your vehicle, right? Because it's all about hands on the wheel, eyes on the road.
Exactly.
Audio-based directions. We do have some simple visuals and the thing that come, that pop up on the radio itself, but it's all voice guided. And it's simple too, because all you have to do is you push the blue button. The advisor has the ability to look up or help you find where you need to go. If you're looking for a restaurant, you don't even know where you want to eat, can help you find that restaurant and then download that route right into your vehicle. And then all you have to do is pay attention to where you're driving and follow the turn-by-turn directions coming through your audio system. Now, we find that, and I always call that the good system for those of us that don't plan ahead, right? Because then when you're in your vehicle and you don't exactly know where you're going, we're always there with a push of a button. But the nice thing about eNav, right? And honestly, this is a partnership now that we have with Google, that we've done with MapQuest, that we've had out there for about 1.5 years now, and the ability to plan ahead. So if I'm going on a trip or I'm leaving work and I know I've got to stop and get something on the way home, but I don't exactly know where I'm going, I can simply go to Google. I can search for my destination. Again, I may not know exactly what kind of store I'm looking for, but I can find it when I go to Google Maps. I find that location, and then I can send that directly to my vehicle. And then once I get in, all I have to do is simply push the white button in the vehicle. I call that route up. In fact, if I only put one route in, it'll automatically know that, and it'll say, hey, I noticed you have a new route there. Would you like me to download that route? I say yes. Route populates into the system, and we go. Very simple.
So if you're traveling cross country, then literally you could stop at whatever your waypoint was, and tomorrow you may change directions and decide you want to go north instead of south, or whatever. In your hotel room, at the table, wherever you are, with a laptop or I don't know if smartphone would work. Would a smartphone send the same signal?
Depending on which phone you have and how you would access Google, there are ways to do it. It's not really optimized to do it that way. The best way to do is use your laptop to go to Google Maps or to go to mapquest.com and search for your destination that way, and then send it directly.
So then, Rich, when you save, rather than saving, you would send print to, and that would send to?
Yeah, it's not even a print, because that's the thing. You don't have to print the map when you walk out. You just hit send to, and when you hit send to, we will ask you for your username or your account number if you're on MapQuest, so that we can get the information, so we know which vehicle obviously to send it to. That's the important piece. And literally on Google, once I hit send to, and it says send to car, that comes up. Once I hit send to car, it asks me for my information. I hit go, and it's gone.
At the same time, could you put multiple email addresses, or is it strictly an OnStar dedicated route? In other words, if you wanted to send it to Rich and then to Bobby and then to Car, it would send to OnStar, but this is the way you could have a family. Oh, this might be a new idea for you.
No.
You see where I'm going there?
No, I see exactly. To draw a distinction, if you think about it, when you go to these sites, you have the ability usually to send them to an email address, to send them to a phone, to send them to a GPS, in some cases, or send them to your car. So when you hit that send to, you really get those options that come up. And when you hit send to car, that's when you're sending it separately there. Now, within those functionality, they do allow you to send them to email. That's a separate thing. But really what we ask from what Google Maps does and helps in this case is really it allows the person to find out, where do I want to go? If I'm looking for something, maybe like a generic restaurant, I can identify what that is, and then simply send us the destination. right? And then once that destination's available up in the cloud, right, the car could access it whenever you need it. And that's the other nice thing too is you may not be going straight there on the way home. So let's say I'm leaving work and I have to pick up dinner on the way home, but I've got to go do another errand first, right? Depending on where you're at, you can push to get that route to get and access that destination when you need it. Not immediate, it's not the first thing when you get in the car. You may go somewhere first and then say, well, now it's time for me to go over to pick up pizza on the way home. Now I'm going to push the button and I'm going to get the route. So no matter where you're at, it's a funny thing. I always tell my wife, I say, hey, you're never lost. I programmed home in your vehicle. So if she ever has to, she pushes the button, and wherever she's at, she just says home, and it will take her home.
You make it sound so easy, and I think that people and consumers have to understand how to work their vehicles and what the options are. And the first thing that we talk about on Car Clinic broadcast, number one, become familiar with the automobile. Years ago, when ABS was first on the automobile, a lot of folks didn't understand that the pulsations from the brake were because of the unit working, and that didn't mean to let off. It meant to stay on the pad. So the conversation that we're having, the information that you're providing, will help someone. And some GM owner with OnStar, and even others as well, will help them better understand the options. And that's what's important. What was, and you mentioned where you backed up the first time and mentioned the turn-by-turn.
Yep.
What was the easiest for OnStar application? I know it's all about being safe and about convenience for consumers. What was the easiest, and an even tougher question, what's the hardest trigger to pull with regard to growing not only the brand but the understanding of what all it can do? Where does it stop?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and you mentioned it just there as you were asking me the question, we always ask ourselves, kind of from a filter standpoint, what's the safe alternative, right? I mean, because that's what the brand stands for at the end of the day, is the safe way to do certain things in your vehicle. You can go back to, obviously automatic crash response is a pretty easy thing to go back and understand why that's safe. But even hands-free calling, and we've been doing hands-free calling for years, right? Before the latest, all the conversations going on now about distracted driving. That was another reason why we did that. Turn-by-turn navigation, again, was an execution that we came up with because, look, at the time, 3 years ago, personal navigation devices and different things were becoming big, but you got a lot of distraction going on with the visuals going on the right. Even when we do work with, and certain GM vehicles have the ability, if they have a built-in navigation screen that people want to use, the nice thing there is we even give you an option that makes it easy and safe. Because if you notice when you pull over, if you have a vehicle that has a built-in navigation screen, you got to pull over because otherwise you're shut out, right? Again, push the simple OnStar button, and you can put that destination in there by talking to the advisor. They'll put it in for you. So now you don't have to pull over anymore. You can just drive along, talk to the advisor about where I'm trying to go. They'll simply send it into your navigation system, and it's all right there. So again, simple and safe is always the way that we want to do it.
Well, and I think that's a way to move it forward. No question about that. Let's talk one more evolution, audio. And I know at one time that we talked earlier about one of your associates that I just talked about 10 years ago reading emails, and maybe a little before its time. You mentioned one thing about OnStar being there before others, the song Country Before I Was, whatever that song is. So OnStar was really in the sky early on before people really understood what it meant, except for the emergency situation. But now it's evolved into not only emergency calls, obviously, and I think some 4,000 calls a month or more for crashes to OnStar that are handled, and hundreds of thousands of calls for check engine lights, and that's a direct communication with the OnStar to the vehicle for crash avoidance. You and I could go into a lot of different places here, but let's the question, I guess, for you, the radio directions and audio. Will we see audio for other applications come in to play in addition to the maps?
Yes, I would say we will. I'm not sure I can get too specific on some of the things that are going to be coming.
Folks, I'm trying my best to dig in here, and you're doing a great job. But tell us what you can.
No, I think you'll always see us looking to constantly innovate. I think that's what you've seen in the 14 years of OnStar. Automatic crash response was one of the key reasons why this company got into this. As a way to help people, which is obviously a critical and important part of driving. But we think there's other ways to do a lot of other things that there's safe alternatives for. And even as you look at things that are on distracted driving, I mean, I think you'll see us look at a lot of those kinds of opportunities as ways to, people are going to do things in cars that they probably shouldn't be doing, right? So let's make sure that they're doing them the safe way. So we'll constantly be looking down those paths for those opportunities.
I want to thank you for joining us today. Terrific information, and I appreciate your explanations. I understand more. I know that our listeners will, and I look forward to having you back on Car Clinic one day. And again, a great studio here in OnStar in the Renaissance Center. Thanks, Rich, for joining us. Rich Martinek.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.